Civ 7 is about to release an update so big that the game director has called it similar in scope to an expansion like Rise and Fall or Gathering Storm. Test of Time, completely free for all players and set to release within the next couple months, is Civ 7's answer to a lot of the questions the community has posed since release, such as: will you ever release a classic mode?
No.
Can you make religion more interesting?
No.
Could you improve the UI at least?
No.
But rest assured, this update is set to seriously shake things up in a major way. Civ Switching is no longer required on age transition, and all Civs are now available to play from the start of the game. Legacy parts are completely gone and replaced with a new Triumph system, and Victories have been completely reworked into a competitive race against your opponents. So let's talk about Civ 7's Test of Time update and why I think there's a lot riding on this crucial patch. Civ 7 has been in a bit of a weird spot lately. After an entire year of regular monthly updates when we were getting a steady stream of new Civs, new leaders, overhauls to map generation, naval gameplay, UI, you name it. It seemed like Civ 7 was on the up and up after a very rough launch. But in 2026, things had fallen silent. The last major update we got was on the 9th of December 2025. Almost 6 months of radio silence for a game in desperate need of attention. So why the break? Well, Firaxis has been working on something big behind the scenes. You see, until this point, Civ 7's development has been focused mainly on adding new things or slowly sanding the edges off of rough mechanics from launch. With Test of Time, they're breaking out the jackhammer and going to town on the very foundations of the game. Civ Switching, Legacy Paths, Victories, nothing is safe this patch. And spoiler alert, one of these they've absolutely hit out of the park, and the other two, tentative changes that will hopefully pay off in the future. First up, 1 Civ playthroughs, and this is the big one. Now, as a die-hard Civ Switch fan since the beginning, I didn't initially see the value in this change when it was first announced. I thought this might be Firaxis walking back one of the greatest innovations of the 4X genre, and no, I'm not talking about humankind, because I think Civ 7's implementation is so much better it's not even close. I know you're already running to the comments to tell me that the age system is what killed this game, but I really don't think that 1, this game is dead, it's still quite popular, and 2, the age system isn't a fundamentally bad idea, it just lacked polish, and this patch has gone a long way to fix that. The way that ages make the early, mid, and late game all matter in their own distinct way is what's kept me coming back to Civ 7, and once you get over the initial learning curve of the system, it makes it extremely difficult to go back to older Civ games, where the game is more or less decided 60 turns in. So yeah, I wasn't too keen on the idea of watering down the age system, which we'd already kind of seen with changes such as the move to making continuity the default setting in the game setup screen, but fortunately I couldn't have been further from the mark. The changes they've made to age transitions and the Civ switching mechanic in Test of Time are far and away the best part of this update, and I can't wait for this to hit live so you can try it all out. So why is it so good? What have they done? Well, like I mentioned, you can now play as any Civ in Antiquity. So straight away, this means we've gone from having 10-ish choices for your starting Civ when you load up a game to well over 30. If you were around during the launch news cycle, as I might have been, you'll remember the infamous quote that Civ 7 would have more Civs at launch than any previous Civ title, which was absolutely true if you added them up across all 3 ages, but in reality, you loaded up the game and you had 10 choices, so it did feel pretty restrictive, especially when the balance of the Antiquity Civs was a little bit questionable. The second half of this feature is that you can now stay on as the same Civ past its so-called apex age. In short, you can now play as the Greeks or the Americans from start to finish, should you so choose. And just like previous Civ games, Greece will still have most of their critical bonuses front-loaded at the start of the game, and the Americans will have a lot of their power come near the end of the game. But they have given this feature a lot more love than I was expecting, to be honest. They've gone far beyond what previous Civ games have done in this respect, as even when you're playing a Civ outside of their main window of power, you still have some unique bonuses and effects you can unlock that reinforce your identity as that Civ. Take America for example, they are a modern age civilization with their main ability here being that you get 1 production on resources and 150 gold every time you improve a resource. The modern age is also where you can build the unique quarter, the industrial park, get their unique units, the Marine and the Prospector, and you have their full unique civic tree to play with as well. However, if you start out as America in Antiquity, instead of 150 gold from improving resources, you only get 50 gold, which then increases to 100 gold in exploration, so you get that nice power progression throughout the game, while still maintaining a clear focus on what your game plan should revolve around. In this case, expansion and grabbing resources. But in addition to that, you also get some unique traditions that are unlocked through culture. In Antiquity, this is Gold Rush 1, providing 1 gold in settlements for every resource assigned to them. In Exploration, you'll get Robber Baron 1, which provides +1 influence in the capital for every resource. And all of this feeds into your final Apex Age tradition tree, which you'll note are improved versions of the traditions you've been using up until this point. So Gold Rush 2, Robber Baron 2, and a new tradition entirely called Lend Lease. This system is absolutely phenomenal, and they've added all of these new civics for every civ in the game. The sheer amount of content being added to the civs here with this update is insane. And not to mention that many civs have had their abilities shuffled around or reworked entirely. Greece, for example, now gets culture from diplomatic actions as a baseline ability, as well as tourism from every city-state they're suzerain of. Now this is one of the new victory currencies that we'll talk more about later. Iceland's naval units can coastal raid archaeology sites in the modern age for double artifacts. There's a lot here, it's absolutely insane. But it doesn't even stop there. With the new syncretism option that allows you to affirm your civ's current culture, rather than being forced to take something from someone else, you can now further still double down on what makes your civ unique with yet another tradition that feeds into your civ's identity. Rest assured, this is not a system that they've slapped together and sticky taped onto the game to quickly appease the Civ VII hate maxes. This is a fully fledged overhaul to Civ VII's most central mechanic, polished to a T. And this is why I've always maintained that Civ VII's bones are phenomenal. It just came out a bit underbaked. Clearly, when given sufficient time, the devs have been able to fully realize their vision on what civs and ages could look like in 2026. I think this is the absolute standout feature that will receive near universal praise from returning players coming back for this update, as well as Civ VII regulars. With all that being said, this is also why the next couple of things I'm going to talk about are a little disappointing to me, as in many ways, the devs have moved away or indeed completely abandoned what I took to be their original vision for the game, and have replaced it with something else entirely. So instead of feeling like a system that has had years of thought and polish go into it, it ends up feeling a little reactionary and underdone. Which brings us to... So I kinda unleashed on triumphs in my last video. I just think these are so boring. Who comes up with this stuff? +3 combat strength against fortifications? Like, okay. Go watch the full thing if you want to hear me pop off for 17 minutes, but I feel like I should be a bit more productive here. Let's talk about triumphs, because this is one of those systems that's been kinda confusing. Triumphs are meant to be the replacement for legacy paths, but in my opinion they have completely missed the mark, and completely missed what was fun about legacy paths, which wasn't much, granted, but I think these are a side grade at best right now. So why do I think that? I think there are 3 major issues with triumphs as of Workshop 3, which I hope can be resolved before Test of Time goes live. As previously stated so eloquently by myself, they are boring. Almost all the rewards for triumphs are simple stat boosts and percentage modifiers that are just extremely passive. None of the triumphs I played with really got me excited to complete them. None of them ever really put me in a situation where I really had to go out of my way to reach them in order to get a massive payoff that would define how I played in the next stage. I think one of the most telling pieces of positive feedback, in massive air quotes, that triumphs got from the workshop was a huge amount of people saying that they were a big step up from legacy paths because you could just ignore triumphs, whereas legacy paths were too impactful and so it felt like you had to complete them. Now, saying that a brand new mechanic is good because it can be ignored has to be one of the most bizarre ways to praise an idea, but the worst part is they're absolutely right. Triumphs are completely ignorable, and I don't think I even really opened up this tab after my first game. The difference is, I don't think this is a good thing. If you can completely ignore a game mechanic, it should probably be made better, or it shouldn't exist in the first place. There have been numerous feedback posts and videos on this topic, but long story short, the rewards are just far too weak right now. Particularly the newly added pivot triumphs that give victory points across different playstyles. These are a really fantastic idea, and I hope they continue to make more like this. Second point I want to raise on triumphs is the UI. A familiar complaint for Civ 7 unfortunately, but the way that all 50 triumphs are just dumped onto your screen with every triumph's name, requirement and reward all splayed out in full is wild, and this is a fantastic way to completely overwhelm new players. I know this might sound a bit hypocritical if you've been following any of the discourse around Civ 7's UI. The most common complaint is often that the game just doesn't tell you anything. Now they release a screen that literally tells you everything all at once, but there is such a thing as going too far in the other direction. It's just such a static way to display all of this information, and there are numerous ways to display it that I think could be a lot better. Take the commander screen for example, which has been in the game since launch, unchanged. There's a lot of good here. All of the paths are cleanly displayed on one tab that doesn't cover the entire screen, and when you hover over each icon, then it tells you what that node entails, with no scroll bars anywhere on this screen. Now imagine for a second if they applied the Triumph treatment to the commander screen, and it becomes immediately clear which one makes for a more pleasant user experience. My third and final point on Triumphs is that the entire dynamic of how rewards are acquired in the game has been completely changed from legacy paths, and in my opinion, it's for the worse. As they are right now, the only way to get the dedication for Wonders of the Ancient World is to build 7 Wonders. The only way to get the reward for Silk Roads is to have 8 trade routes active. Under the legacy path system, which again, don't start typing in the comments about how I'm defending legacy paths. I'm not, they have some massive flaws of their own. But even legacy paths gave you multiple rewards to choose from, rather than Triumphs which give you one specific way to get one specific reward. The absolute best way I can convey this sentiment is through this mockup, created by Zally Gold. Such a fantastic idea and so well executed too. This perfectly solves many of the issues with both Triumphs and legacy paths in my opinion. Under this system, as you work your way through Triumphs, you are gradually rewarded with Triumph points to fill up this bar. And as you get more Triumph points, that allows you to choose which economic dedications you want to take in the next stage. Shifting the dedications out from the Triumphs and into this dedication system brings the dynamic back from one way to earn one reward to many ways to earn many rewards. This is very similar to the era score system from Civ VI, which is another great example of many ways to earn many rewards. I cannot stress enough how great of an improvement this would be, and I know for a fact the devs have seen this image, so here's hoping they draw some inspiration from it. Well done, Zally Gold. As it has been so succinctly put by the community, you no longer chase the victories come to you. And although the devs have signaled changes to the thresholds, which are obviously very easy to tweak, I think this is fundamentally the wrong philosophy to have for victories, and in my mind, a lot of it comes down to framing. So let me explain it to you with an overly complex anecdote and tell you an old story about World of Warcraft. Way back in the day, the WoW developers introduced a system called Rested Experience. Now this new mechanic meant that if you didn't log your character out in a major city, your character would become unrested and over time get less and less experience while playing. This system was absolutely reviled by players as it felt like it punished you just for playing the game. So after significant backlash, the devs changed the system. They made everything in the game take twice as much experience to achieve, but you now gained 200% experience while rested until it slowly went back down to 100% over time. Now for all the mathematicians out there, you'll know that this is fundamentally the exact same system, but the reception completely changed. Players loved it. What an awesome way to reward the player by immersing yourself in the world. But let's bring it back to Civ Land. I think an interesting comparison here is going for a culture victory and researching computers in Civ 6 versus future techs in Civ 7's Test of Time. Both of these are technologies that come right at the end of the game. In Civ 7, finishing a future tech in the modern age pushes the age progress forward and will likely bring the victory threshold down as a result. Let's say from, 5 times the nearest player to 4 times the nearest player. In Civ 6, researching computers instantly boosts all of your tourism yields by 25%. Pretty straightforward. In both of these cases, you're rewarded for investing in science even while pursuing a culture victory, and in both of these cases, you need about 25% less tourism overall to achieve your victory. The difference is that Civ 6 frames this important late-game milestone as a reward that makes your empire stronger and makes number go up, while Civ 7 doesn't affect your empire at all. It simply lowers the invisible bar in the menu that you need to reach to end the game. It may as well reward you by making it so you can stop playing sooner. This is the gaming equivalent of moving the finish line closer to you instead of making you run faster. Very unsatisfying. So yeah, framing. It's important to remember that we're all human, and so the psychology of these systems can be just as important as the system itself. This point is perhaps most obvious in fact with the new Triumph system I mentioned earlier. Just by providing players with what appears to be like 50 different objectives they can go for each age, the player base has overall responded extremely positively to this system, as there is no longer a linear progress bar being filled up. We'll see how this system fares in the long run, of course, but it does make me wonder if a reworked legacy path system that fixed all the same problems as Triumphs would have been received just as well if it was renamed and rebranded as something new. Food for thought. Anyway, that about sums up my thoughts. Hopefully that was all pretty coherent, but I'd love to hear what you all have to say on this patch. I think if I had to sum it up in one sentence, I would say that all of the new systems introduced in the Test of Time update have the potential to be better than their live counterparts, though I would question if that same effort could have been used to improve what we already had, rather than starting fresh with new systems altogether. Regardless, it seems the community is pretty hyped for the update, and most of you are going to be giving it a shot when it comes out, and I'll be there with you to get back into some good old tier lists, guides, all that good stuff. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you hated the video, tell me why down below. So cheers everyone, see you next time. Thank you as always to the channel members who support me month to month, which is Chris J, In Paladin, Awesome Daisy, Chase Bandy, Tronty Wanty and Shamal TV. Thank you very much for your support as always. It's very much appreciated.